Hey, thank you all for joining us this evening. My name is Sydney Kraviak, and I am Peters Township Public Library Program and Outreach Coordinator. Before I introduce our speaker this evening, we have Megan Greenwood from the Peters Township Public Library Foundation who's going to say a few words. Thank you, Megan.
Yes, no problem. Thank you, Sydney. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Megan Greenwood. I'm pleased to be here today as a member of the Peters Township Library Foundation Board. The foundation is a team of 12 board members dedicated to supporting the library financially and through volunteer support as we open books, doors, and minds in our community. Some of the ways we support our library are funding the local history room archivist. We fund different family events such as the t-shirts for the tie-dye event. We have increased the library's collection over the past few years, and also financed enhancing the version of Zoom you are all joining in on virtual programs. Another way is through our annual Novel November event. Each year, the foundation brings in a nationally known author, and this past year, we welcomed Taylor Jenkins Reid, who was a New York Times bestselling historical fiction author and screenwriter. We raise funds from used book sales, so please check out the freestanding rotundas if you have not lately in the library. We have youth books, we have adult books, fiction, nonfiction. We also host outdoor pop-up book sales, and there's one coming up this spring. If you are spring cleaning, make sure to drop off your gently used books at the library for your donation. We also have our annual donor driver mailer and private donations, as well as we gather donations through the Washington County Charitable Foundation Day of Giving, which usually happens in September. Your donations continue to help us augment the library budget to provide programs and materials for our community. Thank you for your support, and with that, I welcome you to What to Keep, Organizing Your Life for the Years Ahead with Jill Yesko. So take it away, Jill.
Thank you, Megan. Before Jill starts, I'm going to share her bio and her introduction. So Jill Yesko is a professional organizer and founder of Discover Organizing, Inc., a firm based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She started her company in 2003 and has a team of professionals that help people to downsize and transition, organize their homes and photo collections, and specializes in working with those with chronic disorganization and who are living with a hoarding disorder. Her first book, I'm Right Here, 10 Ways to Get Help for Hoarding and Chronic Disorganization, was published in June of 2021 and is focused on shining the light on the several methods for accessing the right resources for these specific challenges. Prior to running her business, Jill had a career in social work and human resources in a psychiatric hospital for children. She's a mother of two brilliant people, Nathan, her company CIO, and Mary, a geoscientist. She lives with the love of her life in Pittsburgh and is addicted to surfing, snowboarding, and paddleboarding. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening, Jill.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love talking for this library. Everyone has always been so welcoming, and I always get great questions. So I'll make sure to leave some time at the end of this presentation for questions. This is an interesting class to me because I wrote all new material for it when I was preparing, because Peters Township Library is always so innovative. It isn't just an organizing class or a decluttering class or a downsizing class. They really wanted me to do a little bit deeper of a dive into basically kind of where we are in our organizing processes. Sometimes we're reacting to stuff. We're reacting to our lives. We're reacting to time management. Having all sorts of issues with new things coming in. We just had holidays, so we just had new stuff coming in, and it always seems to surprise, my clients. They're like, look at all this new stuff that came in. And I think what I try to do, just like a good accountant prepares you for tax season, I try to prepare you for the seasons of your life. So without further ado, I'm going to get into just a tiny bit about us. This is only just an example of what you'll see on our website of some work that we've done. But we have been organizing for 18 and a half years now. It started out as I saw the answers on the poll about home office being a very cluttered space. I only had a tiny computer armoire to start my business out of, and it was in that armoire Oh my gosh, I had everything that I needed. But it was a tiny corner of my living room, and that is where I worked from home for many, many years before I branched out. So I just want to say, hang in there. If I can do it in a tiny armoire with as many employees as I had, you guys got this. With working from home, we just have to help you come up with some creative solutions, and that's what I'm here for tonight. So anyway, these are, some of the spaces that we've organized. This is some of our work. We do very hands-on firm. We help people in their homes, in their home offices. We help to completely downsize and transition seniors as well as families all over Pittsburgh. And we actually specialize as well in those with chronic disorganization and hoarding disorder. We definitely want to stay away from the word hoarder, because that's really negative. So we always say someone that's experiencing hoarding, or someone that is having hoarding tendencies or has hoarding disorder that has been diagnosed. So that's just a little thing. We want to mention that we did, of course, publish the book I'm Right Here, 10 Ways to Get Help for Hoarding and Chronic Disorganization. But we're very proud to say that my co-author and illustrator and I, Lauren Kyle and Nathan Yesko, we published a book that I hope will speak to the general audiences out there about how to get organized in every decade of your life. So it hits the 20s through the 90s. And if you get past to the hundreds, then I want a chapter submitted by you guys. So I want to hear more about that. So I'm going to be talking about some of the concepts in the chronological order book, because I believe it covers many different areas of your life, what I'm going to be talking about tonight, because tonight's about just being organized right now with your space that you have now, but it's also going to be talking about the years to come. That was the promise in the blurb that you guys signed up for this class, that it's not just organizing for now, but preparing for those seasons like I was talking about. So without further ado, I want to make sure you know that you will need for my class tonight. I'm going to make you work a little bit. I know that you're on your honor, but anyone that's attended my classes in person, any workshops I've taught, know that I really like you to kind of come away with something. And sometimes I do ask you to please take some notes, but also make some action steps. So the first little exercise I'm going to ask you to do, it's really good that we had that quick poll. Because I learned a lot, but I want you, this is just between you and, maybe your family's with you tonight, or just maybe a spouse, a partner, someone might be sitting with you watching. What 3 spaces in your home frustrate you the most? And I always pick 3 because when I do assessments with my clients and I'm walking through their homes, I always see every part of the home, whatever part of the home they're willing to let me see. And then we prioritize, because there's usually something that kind of hurts the most, right? It's something that might bother you the most in your home. And what I saw, number 1 answer was closets in the quick poll. So that was a fun thing that the library did. That was cool. So I want you to take just a moment. I'm sure this is going to be a pretty quick answer, but the reason why it's 1, 2, 3, because now that you've written down maybe closets, office space, kitchen, I would like you to prioritize which space you want to kind of think about tonight as you go through the class. And then I also want you to think about what has worked before. There have been times in our life that we've felt like we're on top of our game, like we've kept in the kitchen organized when maybe the kids were little even more than we are doing now, or maybe my office at work is impeccable, but my home office is a disaster. Why is that? Why is that happening? So what has worked? What has kept a space organized before? So I want you to maybe think about that and write that down. And then finally, this is always the easiest one for people to answer, is what is the biggest barrier? What is the biggest problem that people, they'll call me and say, I know it's an excuse, or I know I should. And there's a lot of shame and a lot of guilt that I hear coming through the phone. And so I'm going to try to have you release that onto the paper right now, like get rid of that barrier, because we kind of tend to be our own worst enemies when it comes to our homes and our spaces. And there's a lot of shoulding out there. I hear it a lot. And so we want to try to approach it in a very positive way. We want to try to approach it in a way, at least you're here now. You're working on it now. You've called me now. So let's get started with that. So if you can identify the biggest barrier, sometimes that will help you solve the problem. So where are you in your process? Some of you have already decluttered. I know that COVID has turned a lot of people inward into their homes and kind of shined a light on their closets and their spaces, and it hasn't been the best light maybe, and maybe you've seen some things that you're like, wow, I forgot that I even had that, and I can't believe that I'm living this way. And what it does is it kind of allows that reality check, right, to come in and say, I would like to have a better house. I would like to have a better system in my kitchen. I would like to have people over when, this is over. I would like very much to have a bedroom that feels like a place where I can sleep and rest and have respite from my day or from my job. Or frankly, just some personal time, to reflect or to read. And a lot of people use their bedrooms as a place to kind of stash stuff, and it's not a sanctuary. And so let's say you have gotten through the process of decluttering, but maybe organizing is where you need to go next. Maybe you've donated a bunch of things and now you're kind of left with the remainder of the stuff. And, frankly, I'm going to be honest with you. These are my clothes that I just donated. It was I ended up over the weekend. I wanted so badly to just tackle this. I have this little tiny closet. You're going to see it, what I did. But I have this little tiny, I call it a Harry Potter closet. My fiance has 3 closets and has many nice dress shirts and things that he wears to work. And, his shoes are bigger, his clothes are bigger. I'm 5 foot tall. And so I call it the Harry Potter closet. It's angled. And I religiously go through my closets because of, what I do for a living. And, I said, I'm going to show these people what 3 months of not touching your stuff does from a professional organizer standpoint. And so I'm going to bare my soul to you. I've always been, as you know, some of you that have either worked with me or I've taught you before, I have been very transparent. I'm a human being who works 60 to 80 hours a week sometimes. Getting the books written was a labor of love, lots of time, and frankly, closets get neglected the most because it's not what you see. A lot of people can keep their countertops clean, and they can even clean off their dining room tables and things like that. So I'm gonna talk about a little trick I used as we go through it. But when you're left with your stuff, you sometimes, and I hear this a lot, like, hey, I got rid of 4 bags of clothes. I got rid of 10, boxes of books. That's great, and it's out. But we sometimes don't know what to do with what remains, and also how to kind of structure the organizing system so that it stays with us and becomes a routine, like my every 3 month edit of my closet, right? That's something I do every 3 months, the change of the season. I've done it since I was little. My kids do it. It's just something I was raised with, so I gave my kids that gift. They don't have overstuffed closets. They might have a messy closet, but they don't have too much stuff, which is really, really good. I haven't done an inspection because they all live away from home, but we'll see. So one of my favorite people in the whole world she has a quote that she finally trademarked. She is actually the author of a book that you can get at your library, and it's called Taming the Paper Tiger. And Taming the Paper Tiger is it's such a great book on how to manage paper and paper clutter and office space. So those of you that answered, I have a messy office space, I'm going to strongly recommend that you go out and order this book from Peters Township Library and get it in, because it is an incredible book on how to just decrease those big piles of paper and to set up a system, not just decrease the piles of paper, but set up a system to manage that paper and find what you're looking for, right? That's always the ticket, finding that paper when you need it, because we don't want to put things away to just put them in a drawer because there's a pretty orange folder for it. We want to put things away so we can retrieve it again. And I'm gonna say that one more time. We want to always put something away so that we can retrieve it again. So don't put it on a shelf or in a basement or in a bin because it's a great bin that holds the object and then it's hidden from view and then you don't have to look at it again. And it's down the basement, now it's got 2 layers of dust on it because you weren't ready to release it. That's one thing, but just to put something in a pretty bin, and we see all the TV shows and the makeover shows, and my big request and my big ask of you is to put something away only because you really do see yourself using it in the future, and also because you love it and you enjoy using it. But I love this phrase, she said, clutter is just postponed decisions. And how beautiful is that? Whenever we're not sure, when I'm working with my clients, if you do have something you're not ready to release, we put it in the I don't know bin or the I don't know shelf. I'm not ready shelf. Call it whatever you will, but keep moving through your process. Because one of the things that I recognized even within myself when I was downsizing and moving, I recently moved a few years ago from my home that I thought was so small it couldn't hold many things. I got stuck on memorabilia. I had a 1,200 square foot home that was greatly organized, but boy, I'll tell you what, if I had a picture of one of my kids in a frame, I put it in a bin called framed photos. And it just sat there. And, you want to talk about the cobbler not having any shoes, and I have a photo organizing department. I went ahead and scanned all those pictures and took them out of the frames, but I couldn't believe how long. I mean, my kids were in their mid-20s when I moved, and those were pictures from them, from kindergarten. So anyway, no more shame, no more guilt, right? So I had them scanned and digitized, but I mean, honestly, the bin said exactly what was in it. I thought I was so smart, but I really wasn't enjoying those pictures. So now I am on a digital frame, but that's beside the point. I was delaying my decision. I didn't know what to do with those things. And one of the beauties about having a professional organizer on call is that we can help you make some of those decisions. So I really want to make sure that you understand that tonight and any organizing project that you do is 100% about you. It is not about the expectations of other people, including your mother or your father, or your sister who pops over on Sundays and might be kind of judgy. This house, this space, your time, it's all about you. And you have to build this life around what your goals are, how you want to live in your home, and who you really want the home to reflect. And it's you. It's like what your hobbies are, what your interests are, what your routines are. Do you like to cook? Great. Let's organize the kitchen to surround that hobby. Do you like to craft? Where's your crafting space? You should be able to leave some crafts sitting out and not tidy up every night unless you have a very small space that has to be. And that's why I loved my armoire, because I could just shut the doors. But there's lots of ways that we need to build a home around you instead of what the community expects your home to look like. And I remember growing up in my neighborhood, the thing that could get everybody running, even though my mother kept a pristine house, with that doorbell rang and she wasn't expecting someone, it was like a 5-alarm fire was going off in the house, and everyone had to scurry and maybe get an errant pair of shoes or a little pair of socks from the steps, or, quick, run a dust rag as you walk towards the front door on things. And, we kind of have to not be nervous about the doorbell ringing. So if my gift to you is to help you when you hear the doorbell ring or someone knock at your door, to not go, oh God, please let them just be Amazon. I want to hopefully have a space that you are happy in and that you're comfortable in, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't have to grab a dust rag on your way to the front door. So this is another one of these thought-provoking moments that I hope we have together tonight, where if you have, that notebook or that pen and paper situation, I have a little tiny exercise for you to do after this slide, but these are kind of the 3 areas we're going to be talking about, is what your life is right now, because I can guarantee you it's going to change. What do you think you'll be doing next year? And then what do you want to do in 5 years? And I don't mean like I'm giving you a job interview and asking you, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm not going to do that, but I do want to kind of get us thinking about the future a little bit. And it's fun to kind of plan about the future. Maybe you see yourself going to Italy. Maybe you see yourself becoming fluent in Spanish, so you're going to take some advanced learning classes. Maybe you see yourself running a marathon or walking a 5K. Doesn't matter. Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? And those are some of the things that I want us to be thinking about. Because what I see a lot in these homes and with my clients is just these things that they call surprises and things they weren't expecting. Besides the losses that we have, the unexpected passing of people that we love, there are a lot of things that we can plan for, that we can think ahead about. And so I just kind of want to get you thinking so that you're not kind of stuck behind the curve, so to speak, of life. So your life right now, does your home reflect who you are right now? When I was 23, I was pregnant with my first child. When I was 25, I was pregnant with my second child. And that is when I decided I want to learn how to quilt, because I'm going to make a baby quilt. Well, I got about 4 squares in and ended up just framing it, because I don't know what I was thinking trying to learn how to quilt with a 2-year-old. But I tried. I went to a class, and there was a daycare at the class so that I could, in all of my swollen belliness, sit there and make this quilt. And it ended up, just being a decoration on the wall. But I did learn, and I thought, I'm gonna be a great quilter someday. You guys, I have not quilted since that moment. I went back to work when my kids were 3 and 5 because I got my divorce and I wanted to make my own money and have my career. And, working full time, trying to maintain a house and, everybody being healthy and the whole thing. So, did not ever pick up quilting stuff again. And did I have quilting stuff? Yes. I had 3 bins of quilting supplies because I went to Michael's and Benjamin Franklin, which was in Bridgeville, and I bought every possible thing that my instructor told me to buy, including lots of fabric and all different types of tools and cool little things to put on your thumb so the needles don't get in there. And I thought I was brilliant. I had 1 bin that said batting. I had a label that said batting. So I was an organized not quilter for many years. And so I downsized my quilting stuff when I realized I wasn't going to do it again. But you know what? If you go up in my sewing closet, you'll probably find a tiny little shoebox bin with just the basics that I could not let go. And that's okay. I downsized my stuff, and, you know, I'm sure I could get that stuff again, but at least it's the size of a shoebox now instead of 3 big Rubbermaid totes. Because I am holding out hope that I may do it again, but I'm not diminishing my hopes. I've just diminished all of the materials that I wasn't using, because I know that's one of those hobbies that I could head out or go on Amazon or head out to the craft store and get what I needed. So my home now is not about a quilter. My home now supports my lifestyle of, working full time in my business. I love to cook with my fiance. We like to bike, so there's a space for bikes. There's a space by the front door for photos, and I have little projects that when I do, I have a drawer for those projects, and then I redid a closet upstairs in my TV room that just supports all of my writing habit, my reading habits, and have little office supplies, stuff to support the printer. I don't have anything else because I'm not anything else right now. I'm a mom, but they're grown and gone, right? So I don't need to keep certain things around. So this is your exercise for your life right now. I promise you there's not too many of these. I think this might be the second one. There might just be one more little writing exercise. So you're going to grab a pen like we talked about. I hope you're all doing this. And you're going to write 5 activities that you love doing. So whatever the 5 things that you love doing, you all heard in my bio that I'm pretty active. I used to run, but I'm retired because of osteoarthritis. So I can't run anymore, but I can ski, I can snowboard, I can surf, I can walk, and I can bike. And so my life and my home supports those activities. I kind of have an older model van that supports my business, but it also supports my surfing. And so those are 5 activities that I love doing. And then I want you to write down the 5 time-consuming activities that you do every day. And I know I just listed my hobbies, but I also love my job. I love working. I love what I do for a living. I love writing. I love all those things. So whether they're hobbies or whether they're spending time with family, Paul and I love to go to dinner twice a week. It's like what we love to do. And it just could be grabbing a sandwich. It could be grabbing a bowl of soup. It could be going out someplace, in the north side to explore. We just, that's something that we enjoy doing. So the top 5 time-consuming activities you do every day, and they could be hobbies, they could be work. I'm just looking for alignment right now because what I mainly see are homes filled with good intentions. I see homes filled with all sorts of good ideas that people tried to honor something that they weren't doing anymore or that they no longer cared to do anymore. We'll call it their quilting problem, that they thought they were still that person, but in fact today, in their house today, this is what they're doing. Maybe they're trying to caregive for their parent while taking care of high schoolers. Maybe they need to be more organized and have a filing system set up in the kitchen where they wouldn't normally have a filing system set up, because that has to support what they're doing for their mother and what they're doing for their high schoolers. So having something, a filing system, a file index set up that is easily accessible, that is visual, that can be stashed and stored if people come over, that's what I'm talking about. And so what I see a lot is the frustration. I see a lot of, honestly, I see depression, I see anxiety, in my clients when they're trying to kind of push all those activities into one day, first of all, and not plan well and not take care of themselves. And I know we hear self-care thrown out there all the time, get more sleep, self-care, but it's really hard to do that in an environment where all of the things that you're doing aren't lining up with the things that you're yearning to do. So that's just something I want you to have in your heads too tonight. So your life next year, do you have plans? Do you have any life changes coming up? You probably have hopes and dreams of doing something next year. Maybe some of you are planning a great vacation. Maybe some of you are planning to retire. Maybe some of you are planning to go back to work. I don't know who's out there in the crowd tonight because I can't see your faces. But you may have some happy additions. Babies could be coming, in-laws could be coming into your life. Do you want to downsize and move? That's a big plan. Maybe you're helping someone do that. That's also a big change, is maybe helping a parent or a sister or brother do that. And then, any milestone birthdays next year. And these are the things I want you to be thinking about, because a lot of times we just sort of react to those events as if they're, they kind of sneak up on us. Like a lot of times people say, oh my gosh, I can't believe the holidays are here already. Or I can't believe, this is happening. And frankly, my wedding is happening this spring, and I kind of kept putting things down, kind of pushing things down a little bit, and not really dealing with the fact that this was kind of getting bigger than I thought. So I went into what I usually do when I help clients move. I use Asana. It's a free software. And I planned, and I'm pretty much all done now. But as soon as I got used to the idea that I needed software to help me, because I know that's how I work. Some of you need a paper planner. Some of you need checklists. I need this little task management software that I use with my clients, and it worked out beautifully. And I was able to help delegate within that program too. So if you guys want to check it out, it's called Asana. It's asana.com. And I highly recommend it because you can load up your tasks and make subtasks and put due dates in there, and delegate to other people in your family to help you. There's lots of software programs out there, by the way, you guys, but Asana is free and I love it. So anyway, that's my plug. So when you have something that's coming up, just like I said, get your calendar, make sure it's view. If you use Google, try to make sure you can see, the months ahead. But I like to print out my Google Calendar sometimes, and then staple it. So I have each month, and then I actually will start penciling and sketching out some things that are happening ahead, because you don't want to get behind on, like for me, I had to order, my save the date cards. There's all these little milestone things that you have to do to get married, and it's been a long time since I had to do that. So, yes, I've been married before, so learning to do it again and in a digital age is really interesting. But having those things that have to happen, just like when we help you move or downsize, we give you a checklist to do 6 months out, 4 months out, 3 months out, 6 weeks out, 2 weeks out, and then a week before your move. So we do that for you. There's lots of that stuff on the internet, but making sure that you're getting a notebook and writing down all the changes that you can anticipate. A lot of times people will be very broad and vague with their tasks as well. And I want to just say, try to be a little bit, you can definitely write the vague task down, but also try to write down the subtasks and how long you think that's going to take you. And you can do this on a daily basis too. This isn't just about this one slide, right? Like one of the things I work with my son with is, because he works for the company, is when he gets overwhelmed, I'll say, okay, take a break. This is what you have to do. these are the 5 things that have to do with that. But out of those 5 things, let's talk about how long you think those things are going to take you. And so he definitely walks away from that exercise feeling a lot more in control and a lot more empowered to schedule when he's going to do those things, because now he knows that making changes to the website will take him 15 minutes instead of this big looming thing called change website. Now he knows that he's going to be changing the events page to make sure that the Peters Township Library information is on there, and that's going to take him 15 minutes because he has what he needs. And then there's 3 other changes he's going to make, and he finds out that this really big task will take him a total of an hour and a half, and he can schedule it based on the priorities. So let's just do a quick thing called Your Life 5 Years From Now. That could be, anything. I mentioned some things here, big trips, big vacations, big plans, big dreams. Maybe you're retiring. Like I said, there could be things that you want to do, you can't do right now, but you will do later. And, I think that if you can think ahead and plan ahead, and this is one of the things I do talk about in chronological order of the book, is I talk about planning your career, your retirement, your finances, whether you're 25 or 55, you do have to sort of make a plan, from, the kind of big scary things like a living will and planning your estate, and financial boring stuff like taxes, and to planning fun things, to planning how you're going to spend your time. And if you do want to make a career change, do you need to go back to school? Do you need to take just a few more classes? What does that look like? And actually writing those things down when you start putting these things on paper. Some people do vision boards. Those things are amazing. If you can take a magazine and an afternoon and some poster board, scissors, glue sticks, and start envisioning what your life could look like in 5 years. That's a very powerful tool to do that. So I want to make sure I get to the good stuff. Okay, so the 4 main areas to consider is your identity and well-being. Yes, that's me with my surfboard. I am lit up from the inside out when I'm surfing. Your home and your space, your relationships and your social life, and of course your finances and your professional life. And those are the 4 big areas. So even if you write those 4 things down: who you are, what you're living in, your home and your space, who you associate with, and your money, if those 4 things, and start making your plans around there and where you want to be, your time, your space, all those things will be much more organized. One of the most important things I have to say is I don't really start working with anyone until I find out what kind of processor they are. And I usually pick that up on the phone, listening to words that they use, especially if somebody says on the phone, sounds great. Then I know they're probably mostly an auditory processor, or, they'll tell me, that looks good. And I listen for cues, but then I also see when I step into their home that they're, very visual. If everything is out, doesn't mean that they're messy, doesn't mean that they're lazy. It just means they need better systems put into place. But most of the people that I've worked with are very visual. And most of us don't like to not be able to see what we need. This is why we have piles of paper everywhere. And some people, I've noticed, don't mind if things are placed in opaque bins, which means they're not clear, as long as we can access them easily and as long as they have labels. And also, you can't have too many steps. So I'm trying to get to something, because I've noticed that if something has too many steps involved, my clients do not want to access that system. So you do have to make it kind of easy, and make sure things are physically accessible, that you're not bending or stretching or doing, you're trying to reach too high, or you have to get a ladder to get to something that you use all the time. unless you're 5 feet tall and you need a step ladder every 5 minutes. But in most situations, it's a really good idea to understand what type of processor you are and what type of learner you are, and how you perceive the world. That's really important. So we can't cover that in today's class, but at least there's lots of stuff on Google about how to identify how you like your environment and why. So those of you that have been to my classes before know work left to right, top to bottom. You got to gather those supplies first, always, 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 because you will get distracted. You will have to go get a bag midway through the process. So grab at least 5 garbage bags, bins, Sharpies, boxes, set your timer. You know, the Ohio technique, anyone that's been in my classes know. Only handle it once. So basically you're going to only touch it once and decide whether to keep, toss, sell, or donate. And then you're going to make sure it gets dispatched. You're going to take it to donation centers. You're going to give it to your sister that wanted it by shipping it to her or driving it to her house. And then maybe you're going to recycle, and then maybe you might sell something. So those are the 4 things. Of course, this is being recorded. You can go back and look at this anytime. But I came out with a new phrase. I don't know if I'm going to trademark it, but what is categorical concealment? I love categorical concealment. That is kind of hard to say fast 3 times in a row. But what I like about it is for the visual people, you don't have to have everything out. You don't have to have everything in clear bins. You can use it as a tool that once you've truly determined what is active information and stuff and what is passive information and stuff, you can start concealing it. And I'm going to show you what it looks like in my closet. So here I go. Guys, that's putting it all out there. As of Friday and as of Saturday, that is my closet. So I basically I labeled this slide with the items that are inside because my labels are so super tiny. You wouldn't have been able to see them. But basically, I concealed the things that I rarely go to and use. I don't wear a lot of pantyhose anymore, but I know I need to wear them for business meetings and things like that. They do not need to take up space in my drawer. My little clutches, like my little purses. On the right-hand wall of the closet, I ended up putting my Discover organizing uniforms and t-shirts in those. So I took them out of the hanging space. And you guys can see I got rid of a lot of stuff. I donated the biggest bag ever. It was a Container Store bag. It was like, it was as tall as me. And it was filled with clothes and shoes and purses and things that I just absolutely didn't wear anymore. So what I liked about those opaque bins that you can go to the Container Store, you can get them at Dollar General. What I like about these bins is they're not going to be distracting to me like the clutter that was currently on the top shelf of that closet. So having to put things in those categories was really important to me because I knew that was passive information. My active information is what I need to see. I need to see my shoes and I need to see my hanging clothes, and my sweaters I still need to see my sweater. So I moved them over. There's a little tiny right-hand side. I have a before and after video that I'll probably put on social media. So you can see the whole project while it was being done. But, and it was very messy because when you pull everything out, when you're editing, it's horrible looking, but then you put everything back in and it feels good. And hopefully it feels good for a while. This is not my closet. This is a client's closet. But although now that I look at it, it didn't look all that different. But just buying the right containers is really important. It can make a huge difference. These are basically, we only edited maybe 30% of this woman's closet. We just really tidied up and used labels on the containers. But what she needed, because she was visual, is she needed walls and she needed fold things, because that's the way she liked to do things, is fold instead of hang. So I opened up a container instead of putting it this way where she wouldn't even see she wouldn't see the clothes inside. We put it on its side, which gave it walls, and it gave an opening, and it gave it structure. So picking your container is also very important. There's people that just really don't want to use plastic because it's a non-sustainable material, but at the same time, it's easy to wash. Everybody is different on how they do things, and we basically work within whatever is important to you. But I only beg this one thing: please do not go to a container store or to Target without measurements. It is very frustrating to come home and realize that you can't fit those bins into that closet, or put that silverware utensil insert into that drawer because it was too tall, or not wide enough, or too wide. And so it is frustrating. So please make sure you grab that notebook, maybe the same one you're using tonight, and write down some measurements. So the next time you're out and you do decide, you know what, I'm going to treat myself and get myself some organizing products, you'll know what size to buy. But if you are visual and clear plastic is still the way you want to go, totally fine. But I still ask you to label despite that. And some people say, well, I'll use that all the solid bins, and I'll take pictures of what's inside, print it out, and I'll stick it on in a label pocket so they can see what's inside. That works great for kids and toys, too, especially little kids that can't read yet. We do a lot of picture labeling, and it works for adults too. It works for those dress shoes that are on the top closet in or top shelf in your closet. You can see what's in that box instead of having an avalanche of shoe boxes coming down on your head, so that you can get to those black dress shoes. How do you keep these spaces organized? There's two rules to that. One, you got to do regular review and edits. You have to schedule these dates. You have to make an appointment with yourself. I had planned to do my closet for 3 weeks. It was on my calendar. I didn't just decide because I went in to get a loose sock out of my closet and decided I needed to get my socks organized, that I should organize the whole closet. I've done that before in the past, but I don't do that now. I schedule it and I have fun. I put music on. I had some hot cocoa. I had some water. I took breaks. It took me a few hours, and I jammed my music. I had a great time, and my fiance stayed very far away from me during that time. He just stayed on the first floor. But I had a good time, and I was really happy with the results because they worked for me. The other thing that you're going to do is be accountable. I love the buddy system. The only caveat to this buddy is that this buddy, whether they be a professional organizer, they be your neighbor, they be a cousin, they be your mom, I don't care who this person is, but this person has to be a non-judgmental person that is not going to put shame on you for the choices that you make. That's really important, because remember what I said in the beginning, this process, how you design your life, is your life. It's about you. It's so important not to design a life around someone else's expectations, and that includes your space and the things that you keep. Speaking of things, I know we're going to get to our questions, so this is the last slide. Speaking of goodies, we are having a free contest. We basically are going to look at the pictures you send us, and if those products or things that we can curate for you, we'll send them to your house free of charge, $100 worth of products, and then we give you $100 in Container Store gift card. And that is a promotion going on right now on our social media pages, and it is over by the end of the month. So I just wanted to invite you all to take a look at that contest, because it's kind of fun. We're getting some really fun entries of little ideas, and we're going to give everybody solutions anyway, but the products are just going to be a fun little thing. But anyway, I'm all done.
Thank you so much, Jill. Everybody feel free to type your questions into the chat. We have one already. What is your advice on maintaining organization with the family? How do you get all ages to rally around sustaining the system?
Great question. I love this question. I would love to tell you a family meeting is the number one way to get engagement. A structured family meeting. You can probably Google what an agenda for that would be for all different age groups. But this goes back to my case management days. I always had a family meeting once a week with the families I worked with, and I gave everybody a voice. I gave everybody a vote. But there was always an agenda. There was a beginning and an end. There was a note keeper, and that can change every week. But having everybody have ideas that are honored, if you want to try a new system, like I said, with maybe a labeling system, or you want to get the kids involved with buying the right size bins. I know so many teenage girls and boys that when they were told to clean their room, they had no idea what that meant. First of all, they had no idea what clean your room meant. But when they're shown ways without judgment, without shame, like this is a nice way to, we're going to, go through your things, decide what to keep and toss. Maybe we can take some things down to the church or take some things down to the library and donate some books or whatever. We're going to do that together. And then I'm going to help you by your side set up a system to make that work. And maybe we can get, some help in here. Maybe we can watch something together on YouTube and learn how to do something together. But when you tell a kid to tidy up without giving instructions and without that family support and that structure, and also without that engagement from them, maybe they want to, I don't know how many teenage rooms I've made over where when the child got the vote on how they wanted to, what color bins they wanted, how they wanted to organize their Legos, how they wanted to keep their Barbies, how they wanted to keep their books, and really learning about that child's learning style. And if they were visual, auditory, telekinetic, or, kinesthetic learner, that was really important, taking that time to listen. So that's I would love to talk more about that, but I know we're short on time. But family engagement with a family meeting, a structured family meeting once a week is a great way to get everybody organized on their calendars and also to maintain those systems.
We have another one. Does everything fit in a category that can be grouped together in a bin? What do we do with things that seem to be random or don't have a category? I know we all have the junk drawer.
Yeah, I do think miscellaneous can be a dirty word, but try to get it where you use it. So in other words, like if you may have, the junk drawer, try to create that miscellaneous space where you use most of the objects that you use it in. So the kitchen drawer is obvious, batteries, matches, buttons, things that you think, you might use in that space. But when you're looking at bedrooms and closets and things like that, I have a miscellaneous socks that I swear are in another universe. They're away somewhere, but I have a sock bin for that, and I've always had that kind of thing. Or if I find bits, I find stuff from my pockets and purse, there's a little bowl that collects those things. And when I do my purge or when I do my edit, that's when I decide, do I still need those little bits and baubles anymore? So not everything can have a label, but I invite you to not use the word miscellaneous, and I invite you to also leave it open, like a bowl or like a junk drawer, so you can see things and then make an appointment to kind of just review those things.
Another question, how do we get in touch with you to get some hands-on help and an estimate for various projects? If you scroll up in our chat, someone shared out the website link for Jill, so you can always go to that, and then I'll send a follow-up email with the recording to this as well with information to Jill's website if you're looking for that, but that has their contact information on there as well. Next question, my wife and I moved into our new home. We are in our 60s. We did a massive cleaning at our old house before we moved. We still have so many kid things, memorabilia, pictures, and toys left. How do we handle all this stuff? Can I tell you how my parents handled it? Every time I went to their house, I left with a box, and it became my problem.
Yep, that is one way. That is definitely a way. There's the hard way, there's the easy ways, there's the ways in the middle. If the adult child has no space in their home or refuses to take it, you can either, preserve it by taking, we do a lot of digitization at Discover Organizing. So we actually have a little mini studio where we take pictures of objects and then we make a coffee table book out of them, and we get stories from you. And that is how people are able to release those items, from a baby blanket down to a trophy, from soccer trophies or bowling trophies or whatever. We actually take pictures of the object, we get a little bit of the story, and we make a book. And you are 100% capable of doing this at home, of taking pictures of the objects, telling the story, talking to each other, since you have each other, about the story that came along with the object. It does help to release. We hear a lot of stories, and as soon as somebody, it's amazing, the miracle of storytelling. As soon as someone tells us something about that object, and we're that innocent third party or whatever, we're coming in from the outside, they've shared it, and now they can release it without even taking pictures. Sometimes they would say, you know what, take it away. I honored the memory. That's what I needed to do. And that's what we all kind of need to do before we can go forward, is sometimes we have to look back when we're digging through our stuff. So if you don't hand off those boxes to your daughter or your son, and they don't have room, you can say, look, there's a hard date that we're going to be getting rid of stuff by this date. If you don't come and get it, or you don't, have us ship it to you, we'll probably go ahead and donate it, if that's okay with you. And here's kind of a list and a video of the stuff, because it may help to record a video, or it may help to take pictures to jog that adult child's memory, because maybe they don't remember what the stuff is, and it's very general, like it's your memorabilia. Well, what's that? Photo albums, your Letterman's jacket, what is that? So if you just can put everything together, take a picture, with the ability to mark up photos on our iPhones and Android phones, we can maybe circle some things and say, could you just put those things aside and get rid of everything else? That we do so much FaceTime nowadays, and Zoom meetings with families from afar, and they'll just say, let's just do a lightning round. Come on, Mom, come on, Dad, let's do it. And the adult child will simply get rid of everything. And most parents are like, what? You want to get rid of your teddy bear? You want to get rid? They're like, throw it away, Mom. But I hear that all the time.
We have 4 more questions in the chat, so let's see if we can get through these.
Okay.
Is it all about the bins? How do we prioritize stuff and getting rid of it?
Okay, it is not all about the bins. The bins just kind of help you with sorting and containing for the stuff that you want to keep. And it doesn't have to be kept in bins. But usually some type of structure and some type of container does help. Give it a home, because that's a lot of the problems. Is do these items have a home? Is it going to be in a drawer, in a closet, under a bed? Where does this item live in my home so that I can access it again? So about prioritization, I would say if you do not love that object or don't see yourself using it within the next 6 months to a year, it probably does not belong in your house, unless it's like an annual holiday decoration or something that you bring out once a year for some reason. It doesn't necessarily have to be a holiday. It could be, birthday decorations that you bring out every year. But in terms of prioritization, coming up with why you're holding on to it. Are you attached to it for any specific reason? Usually when you work with a professional organizer, we have a series of questions about why you might be keeping something. So this is kind of a layered question, but I would say in terms of prioritization, when you are doing the Ohio technique and it can't go into a category like keep, toss, sell, donate. Like I said, you do get a pass and you can put something on an I don't know shelf or an I don't know bin or box. But not everything does have categories. Like back to that miscellaneous word, that's where you get into where do I use it and how often do I use it and where should it go so that I can use it as often as I want to and need to. And I think that those are some of the questions you need to start with are how often and determining its value, not just financially, like an iPhone has value, right? Only when it works. A lot of people have this very expensive $800, $1,000 phone but they have old ones that they sock in drawers, and you can say, well, that's valuable, but it doesn't work. So it has no value, or it's broken, or something's wrong with it. So then the value has decreased. And then there's emotional value, like we talked about with memorabilia and those things. And so how do you measure that value? And those are definitely some journaling questions in there too. But that pen and paper, to really sit down and really determine, why am I still holding on to this? And, hey, if you need to work with a therapist about some of these stuff, if you're holding on to too many objects that, I always say, if you have too many objects to be happy, then sometimes you need to talk to somebody clinically about those things. But if it's just everyday objects that you're like, wow, how did this happen? 30 years of stuff. Then yes, you do need to start doing some evaluation of what exactly is supporting, like I said in the beginning, what is supporting my life now? And do I want to be in the same space a year from now with looking my home the way it's looking now? Is this a reality for me?
Next, what do you tell someone who has hoarding disorder? And I'm sure you tell them a lot of things. I recently found out that it is related to OCD. So do you have any specific starter advice for that?
Well, that's kind of a heavy question, but I will say that the starter advice, if there is definitely a diagnosis, is to use the collaborative therapy model, which is when there is the diagnosis of OCD and there's a diagnosis of hoarding disorder. We call that a comorbidity. So there's two diagnoses that are coming together, and that could be depression and hoarding. It could be hoarding and anxiety disorder, or it could be a physical disability that's running alongside of the hoarding disability or the hoarding disorder. So the best thing to do is a collaborative therapy approach where you're working with a clinician rather regularly to identify with and treat with techniques, and then working with a professional organizer that can work alongside on hands-on, because a lot of therapists, as you know, do not come into the home, but a professional organizer will, and will work on the goals that the therapist puts out. And so the three of you are working together towards success. And I found that to be the most successful model. You can certainly, in the book, I talk about 10 ways to get help. I know you can get it, at your library. You can go on Kindle. It's very inexpensive on Kindle with lots of links to different ideas. It's definitely the best place to go is the book website, because there's a ton of free resources on my website. It's called imrightherebook.com, and it has all the resources that you can possibly imagine on starting at the beginning to get help.
The next question was about personal relationships with items. So I feel like you've covered that with memorabilia. So our last one, what is the best way to organize a craft room?
Oh, okay. Well, you're talking about categories for sure, but definitely getting into what do you like to do the most out of that craft? In other words, there's a lot of scrapbookers out there. There's a lot of sewing people out there. And whenever I've organized a sewing room or a craft room, first of all, we have to see what we have. We have to get everything out. Got to look at, how much ribbon do we have? Are the scraps really worth keeping? Sometimes you'll say yes, but I will mostly say, how tiny are those scraps and can they actually be used again? So we have those discussions, and we get rid of the stuff that no longer supports any of the projects that we're doing or we're planning on doing. And then we do use a lot of labels. I think it does help. I've recently did a craft room where there's a lot of upholstery fabric, so that's thicker. So those are things to keep in mind between the little buttons and the little threads and the little tiny things that a craft thing. The most important thing with a craft room, and I'm trying to talk fast because we're running out of time, we have run out of time, is that you have to be able to see everything and you have to be able to get to everything. If you're climbing over boxes, it makes it really, really hard to get to other things. I don't know how to explain this because I really need a picture, but you can tell I'm pretty visual. But basically the most important thing to do is to break things down by categories and then put your projects together. So having 4 or 5 project bins or boxes or drawers in maybe an alpha closet system or something that you can still see them, and have your projects separated so they're almost like kits. like they're the kit of the one part, like if you're making a dress, for instance, it's the pattern, it's all the pieces that you need for that dress so that you're setting yourself up for success. You're preparing for your project by getting everything ready so that when you sit down to work on it, it's ready for you. And when you tidy it up, put it back with that kit, just like you would with a scrapbook. That scrapbook, everything that supports the scrapbook, the pictures, the brochures, the ribbons, whatever, it all should go together. There's lots of little great stuff at Michael's that supports organization. I would love to like find out what it is that you need to, I want to like get into your craft room right now real bad, but anyway, I'm sure there's another question. Maybe there isn't.
Oh, it just says great information. Thank you. So thank you so much for your presentation tonight, Jill. And like I said earlier, I think Friday I should be able to get the recording done, and I'll send out a link to everybody to Jill's website where you can go for more information as well as those books. So thank you so much this evening. And for everyone who is about to go start cleaning out their home, I have the donation guidelines for books for the library. So we only take 4 bags or boxes at a time. We have very limited space where we can store these and go through them. We ask that books be recent bestsellers, fiction, nonfiction books should be published after 2010, and things just need to be in good condition. So if it's musty, moldy, or dirty, sorry, we don't want it. And then donated books, if we're able to add them to our collection to replace something that's a little more used, we will. Other than that, they will go to the book sale or a reseller or sent to Goodwill. So we have handouts of these available at the library. So before you come with a carload, make sure you're following the guidelines.
That's great information because you can't just dump things off at places without checking first. I'm so glad that you brought that up. That's very important. Always call your resource before you go.
Yes. So thank you again so much, Jill. And I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes if anyone has any questions, comments, or concerns for the library, and I'll shoot you an email later, Jill.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.